Karen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You're early.
I know. What can I say?
Where are you from?
Pardon?
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Leland, North Carolina.
Oh,
I used to live in Davenport.
I see. Okay. And you're a SABR member?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. All right. Well, welcome.
Yes.
I'm early because I'm just learning how to do this.
I did this yesterday too at the SABR meeting.
Oh, wasn't that good?
That was wonderful.
I enjoyed it immensely.
I did too. I really did.
Yep. Even though I'm a little against Costas because he's anti-Barry Bonds, but I can live with
Yeah, I
that.
know. You kind of have to look over that, I think
I
sometimes.
can live with that.
I got all those Barry Bond baseball cards.
Oh, good for you. Good for
Oh,
you.
I do.
As you can see, I'm a Giants fan.
I'm from Pittsburgh.
Ah, well, you have a great ballpark in Pittsburgh.
We do. We
Ranked
definitely,
number 2, actually.
yes. It is kind of, I like the Forbes one.
Yeah, I would like to have seen it. I saw the wall that's still there.
Yes. Yes.
Can you open up your video?
I'm trying, oh, okay, yeah, I can. Yes, there I am.
There you are.
Hey, I've been doing all kinds of baseball stuff today. I'm doing fact checks on some people. And so that's fun.
There. Well, I'm not sure how many we're going to have today, but
That's okay.
yeah,
We can talk, we can chat.
you can be a fly on the wall, or you
That's
could just participate.
I can be either one. Doesn't matter
Yes.
to me.
Well, I was very disappointed. There was no convention this year.
I know, but at least we had a Zoom.
Yes. Hopefully, this year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Me too.
I've only missed 2 conventions since 1985.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm an old guy. Get that a little closer. There we go.
Hey.
I've been on Zooms, but I've never hosted a Zoom before. So thank
I was
goodness.
in a Zoom when I did the 19th century women's conference.
Did you host that?
No, I portrayed, I was in, presented one of the papers.
I see. Okay,
And
cool.
that was kind of fun
Yeah.
because you panic because you're not sure what's doing it, if you're doing it right, if you have to, you know.
Uh, yeah, well, we've got a little time here, a little time to
Okay.
kill. I imagine some of my buddies will start checking in a little while.
Oh, yeah. I went to one of these last month, and I forget who was doing it, and they were doing it at Cooper's Field or Cooperstown, and the only thing I saw were heads. I
Oh,
didn't
really?
So I saw all these heads bouncing all over the place, and I didn't know what to do. So I just sat there and went, "This is good. I
Yeah.
like this."
Well, in yesterday's meeting, Bruce Markison
Yes,
from the Hall of Fame
yes.
interviewed his boss.
I know,
And
that was so cool.
yeah, I've been to several Hall of Fame meetings, and Bruce Markison is usually the host. And
Oh,
they
that's
have
cool.
a voices thing. They have behind the scenes thing, and these are all recurring programs they put on.
Oh, I just
So
thought it was neat because
so
I've
put
never been
Hall
there.
of Fame, put Hall of Fame on your email list or something, and you'll get posts from them all the time and letting you know these are all free. Um,
Well,
and
I've never been there and I really wanted to go.
oh, I've been there once, but I want to go back really bad. My wife hasn't been there. What year did we, the SABR meeting, the SABR convention was in Albany, New York.
Oh, okay.
And we had a day trip, a bus trip to Cooperstown
Oh,
to
cool.
to the Hall of Fame.
Eh,
And so there were 3 buses. I made sure I was on the first one.
Of course.
It was, I believe, an hour and a half, maybe, from Albany, which is the capital of New York,
Yes.
to Cooperstown. But it went by so quick because the bus was filled with SABR members, of course. And guess what we all talked about? Baseball.
Yes.
So
Sound.
it just zoomed by, no pun intended.
I like that
And
one.
and I was there when they opened the doors, and I was one of the ones they had to kick out when they closed the doors.
Oh,
It was when they opened the doors, and I believe it was like 8 o'clock, 8 or 9. After about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I was just totally overwhelmed.
I bet
I
you
found
were.
myself not even focusing on anything. There
Yeah.
was so much to see. So I had to leave, and I walked down Main Street. I went to a couple of shops, bought a couple of doodads,
Yes.
kind of refocused, and went back. And it's just amazing what they have there. And the
When
whole,
you
the
doing the thing, it was really amazing to watch all these characters moving and all
oh,
the,
that was incredible.
that was I couldn't believe that. I was so
Those
amazed.
those 3 little videos before and after and between the 2
Yes.
productions, those were great with all the people wishing SABR a happy birthday and all that. I
I
thought that
know
was
Keith
amazing.
Oberman, that was
Such
kind
a
of cool.
wide range of people, just amazing.
I
Bill
know.
James, I was glad to see Bill James there, although he's looking old, and that's because we're getting old.
Keith Oberman was there
You're right. I'd forgotten about Keith. Keith was there briefly.
because I turned around and I went, whoa, I haven't seen him in a long, because I have his books, all the Saber books.
Yeah, yeah.
I was really
Uh,
surprised. And
well,
wasn't,
here's my Keith Olbermann story.
okay,
The 2017 convention in New York
okay,
was the largest and the biggest. I mean, the largest and the best. And he spoke at one of the committee meetings. I'm not sure which one. It probably was baseball cards.
yes.
And I'm sure the room was packed. Uh, and I knew he was going to be there. Been a big fan for a long time. When he was 14, I think, he put out a book that had never been done before. And it was a list of all the coaches in Major League history up till 71 or something
Oh my
when the
God.
book came out. And I happened to find on eBay a copy of his book in almost new condition.
Ooh.
Now, there were only about 400 or so copies of the book made. And he had help from a guy named Aaronstein, who was behind TCMA cards. Well, I bought his book because I figured if I have his book and I take it to the meeting and I hold it up, I'll get to meet him and get his autograph, right? Well, then I couldn't make the meeting. I got sick.
Oh no.
Yeah. And don't ask me what I paid for the book. It was ridiculous. Well, it was $100. That's not the end of the world.
But
Uh,
that's still a nice, that's a nice memory.
I will, I figured it would be worth it to get a chance to meet him briefly and get his autograph, but it wasn't to be. His speech at that meeting is available on the website, on the
Oh,
SABR website. You can hear, and not video, unfortunately, but you can hear the audio of his speech. And he talked about Well, once he started with ESPN, of course,
Yes.
and then he became a political, and he still is a political writer, etc. And he's written several, at least one I know, uh, political book, anti-Trump book. Uh, it has the F word in the cover. Anyway, he started off his talk by saying, "There will be no talk of politics, and there will be no questions about politics." And everybody was good. It didn't come up at all.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, if you get a chance, make a note, go listen to his speech. He talks about how important baseball cards are in history and to SABR. And I didn't know until I heard him talking about it that all the 16 original SABR people have some kind of background related to baseball cards.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
it was a pretty interesting speech. And he went through all
didn't
that.
they mention some of the people were some of the at the meeting yesterday?
I'm sorry?
Well, didn't they have some of the originals at the meeting?
One. I
One.
think there's only one left.
Yes, there's one person left.
Yeah, one of the 16 is left. Uh, I'm ashamed to say I don't know his Tom Hufford
Yes.
from Georgia. He spoke in, I think, that second little thing they had.
Well, they put together a really interesting thing yesterday.
Yep, they really did. It was
So
quite
amazing.
well done.
I know. There weren't any, I had done a lot of the 19th century women
Right.
baseball. And that was really interesting. That for me, I thought it was really good as far as the women's conference. But I really liked that yesterday. I liked the fact that all these people started wishing a happy birthday. And
Yep.
like, what was it, Yogi Berra's granddaughter?
I know, that was cool. That was
I
so
was
cool.
so amazed
I
at
want one of
that.
those shirts.
I know.
Yogi
I
in
I definitely do.
lowercase. I bet you can get them at his museum, perhaps.
My bad. I got my Iowa shirt on today, Field of Dreams.
Oh, good for you.
I went to the Netflix movie
Yeah.
when they were showing the movie in Dyersville. That was cool. It was cool.
I have seen the movie. I love that movie. I've seen it. I don't know how many times. We saw it on the field, on the Field of Dreams. We watched the movie,
Yes,
and Kevin Costner was in the audience
I
with
was there.
with his kids. Were you there?
I was there.
Is that when you lived in Davenport?
Yes,
Ah, you were there too. That was a
I, because
Friday night, I
I
think.
thought it was so neat.
The weather was amazing. We really lucked out.
And then everybody, when he said, "Is this heaven?" And everybody went,
Yes.
"No, it's Iowa." But
Uh,
I went there every year for 14 years
to where?
to go to Field of Dreams.
Oh,
I had
you've
some,
been there that many times?
I
Wow.
took the dog and he ran the bases,
Yeah.
but it was so neat to just, people don't realize how magical it really is.
Absolutely. Have you read, or did you even know he had a book? The actor who played his father. And let me think
Zella,
about
yeah,
it.
I
Dwyer,
have the
Dwyer Brown.
was it Smokeless Joe Jackson? There were two
Shoeless Joe
books.
Jackson.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Uh, well, Dwyer Brown wrote a book, and it's wonderful. Talks about his role in the movie, and he lost his dad like a month before the shooting started.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he had to uh, work with all that too. And of course, he had one of the shortest but the most important role in the movie.
I know.
And he's not unaware of that by any means.
But it was the
And
most
do you
important,
remember?
one of the most important parts,
Yep.
I
Do you
thought.
remember the last line of the movie? He gets people on that all the time.
It's if you build it, he will come.
No, that's true. That's something that people mix up. But we're talking about the movie at the very end when it's
Will you play me? Will you, would you, he ask his dad to play ball?
right. But at the very end, Costner says, well, I can't remember his role. Anyway, he says, Dad, do you want to have a catch?
That's
And
right.
a lot of people think that's the last line of the movie, but it's not, because his dad turns and says, I'd like that.
That's right. That's
And
right.
Dwyer Brown gets people on that all the time. And when he autographs his book, he even throws that in there.
Well, what gets me is everybody says, if you build it, they will come. And I'm thinking, no, 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 that's
No,
not it.
it's not true. It's he. Of course,
I
who's
know.
he?
Well,
Who's he? Most of the way through, you think it's Shoeless Joe, and so does what's the character's name? What's Kevin Costner's character's
Kinsella.
name? Hmm?
Isn't it Kinsella?
Ray. Ray.
Ray Kinsella.
Yeah. Don't sell the farm, Ray.
That's right.
Ray Kinsella.
It's so
Uh,
neat when you go there and you sit on the beaches, in the bleachers.
yeah. And they've got the heart carved in there that you see.
I know. It's
It's still
so cool.
there. I was there. Get this. I was there last November. Was it November? Yeah, we took a big chance. Uh, I share season tickets with the iCubs, at the iCubs,
Mhm.
with a man named Ralph. He'll probably be here. Well, I'm sure he'll be here today. Um, where am I going with this? Ralph's birthday was coming up, and I saw a small article in the Register, the Des Moines Register, that they were going to serve dinner on the Field of Dreams. So I did a little checking, and it was true. And I called Ralph. What would you think about? Because it's a 3-hour drive from here.
Yes.
So we drove 3 hours, had dinner, and drove home on a Friday night. He said, "Yeah, that's great." So my wife and I took him to dinner. They had maybe half a dozen tables set up out in right field.
Okay.
And this is a group from the East Coast called Dinner on the Diamond. And
Oh,
I think their offices are in Pawtucket, which is, Red Sox AAA farm club.
yeah.
And this was kind of a test for them, because they've been doing this on the East Coast for a few years, minor league fields for the most part. And I think it went over fairly well. There certainly weren't people knocking down the doors, but there were a couple of other groups having dinner when we were there. So it was kind of interesting. Uh, they they didn't cater it. There were like 6 of them from this organization, and they did all the cooking.
Wow.
They had a barbecue. They had a grill. Um, they had beer and Coke and that kind of stuff. So it was quite fun to have dinner on the field,
Oh my
not
God.
far from the corn in right field.
That corn. I think everybody who goes there has a picture of them walking in the corn. I
Probably
know I
so.
did. I was a typical tourist at that point. I was like, yes.
My first visit was in May, and the corn was only about this big,
Oh, I know. They cut it down.
really low, and I was kind of disappointed, but it was still the field.
Well, that's the
So
thing. I was, first time I was there, the corn was really high, and that was perfect. But you saw all these people going into the corn and coming back out, and I'm thinking, yes, and your point. Hey, my dog loved it. He loved walking around the bases.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting during the Netflix thing that Kevin Costner did bring about the idea that the one person, the family who lives in the one house won't do anything for the family who lives in the other when there's such a big problem, but
Well, that's all gone now.
I know.
Uh, I, I met the lady who bought the Field of Dreams,
Oh,
and unfortunately, she died a couple of years ago.
well,
Died of liver cancer.
oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that's a shame.
She was at the Chicago SABR convention, oh, probably 6 years ago, and I got a chance to chat with her,
Oh,
and I can't remember her name right offhand. Being back on the East Coast, did you hear about the clown who drove his truck on the field and made this was in the winter, and he had a truck with big tires, and he went out on the field,
oh,
drove around and cut up the grass, and they had a GoFundMe to fix up the field, and a lot of people participated.
that's cruel. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
but
senseless.
they caught the guy. I'm not
Good.
sure what they did to him. I'm sure he spent a little time in the county jail, and I'm
Well,
not sure. I'm not sure if he had to. Well, anyway, I don't know the backstory there. But yeah, that was kind of a sad thing, but it got fixed. It got fixed. She got a pretty good sum of money from the GoFundMe that was started.
that's
I
great.
think she was looking for $10,000 and ended up getting almost 30. So there are a lot of fans like us that
That we're really hanging in there. We're
right,
just hanging in there.
right. Well, how we doing here? 12:30.
What's
Well,
going on with the group?
what's going on with them? Not
Yeah.
much under the pandemic, unfortunately.
That's true. That's true. Like they were going to have the game I forget when, and they canceled it because of this.
Oh, the Field of Dreams game.
Yes.
Right, right. Yeah,
I
that
was so excited until somebody said, by the way, just sit down and don't get too upset that they canceled it.
yeah, yeah. Well, also don't expect to get any tickets because MLB is controlling the tickets.
Oh,
And
no.
anything that goes to the public will be, well, the secondary market will just be sky high.
How
I'll
about
be
people in SABR? How about the SABR group?
well. We have one of our guys who's going to talk about that later today.
Okay.
There is a chance that we, well, of course, this is all up in the air because we don't know what's going to happen later in the year. We don't even know if there's going to be a season yet. But assuming that I get my shot on Monday, by the way, tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow's Monday, right? This is Sunday.
I'm waiting.
I get
My
my
doctor told me to keep calling.
yeah, I get my first shot tomorrow.
Well, good.
I'm excited about that.
Amazing. I had appendicitis and I had surgery, and I asked the doctor, since I'm in the hospital, can I have my
Uh-huh.
shot? And he said, just keep calling.
Oh, so this was recent.
And this is on the 6th. Yeah.
6th, you had appendicitis. Oh, wow.
It
Well,
happens.
well, it looks like you're home, so I'm glad you
Oh,
came through that.
I went home that night.
Oh,
They
really?
didn't let me stay overnight.
Wow. Well, it's a fairly easy operation, I understand.
Yeah, but when you have MS, the idea of going home after surgery, you like to stay overnight and
Oh, okay.
something,
I
and
get you.
now they
I
didn't do
get
it.
you.
They said
Huh.
bye-bye.
uh, well, nowadays, especially, they need the space. You know, they need the hotel beds. I mean, the hospital beds.
Or horse
Uh,
pistols, as my dad used to call them.
let's see who's texting me here if it has anything to do. No, that's for a different thing. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Karen, did you? Yes, Karen, got a little name right there. Okay.
Yes,
That's
just
my
me.
daughter's name.
Oh, good name.
My only child. She lives in Alabama.
Oh, we're in Alabama. My cousin lives in Huntsville.
I'm not sure where that is. She lives in Dothan. Dothan is in the extreme southeast corner of Alabama.
Oh, okay.
It's a short distance from the Georgia border to the east and a short distance to the Florida border to the south. And they
Wow.
drop down to the the Gulf Coast in Florida quite easily.
Wow.
So Panama City, I think, is where they go.
Oh, okay.
You know, Florida has that panhandle that
Yes.
runs up and almost cuts off all of Alabama. There's only one little piece of Alabama that borders the water.
I
Uh,
know. I haven't been
I,
there, and
I
my
think
cousin
that's
lived there.
I
So,
think that's where Mobile is
oh, okay.
in their little panhandle. Don't quote me on
I
that.
just watched the movie Cobb the other night.
Oh, phew. Yeah, that's the guy who was shown, who was played by
Tommy Lee Jones.
right. No, the guy who was played the other guy, the writer.
Oh, yeah, Dumpy. Or was it Dumpy?
He wrote two books about Ty Cobb, one with Ty Cobb and one after Ty Cobb died. And they're both, let's just say they may not be as truthful as they could be.
Well, I have the book Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
that's an interesting takeoff because when you watch the movie Cobb and then you see the movie, it's like, was he really this disturbed?
Disturb's a good word. Well,
I'm being kind.
yes. Well, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Uh, but I think he mentions in the movie that he watched his mom kill his dad.
Yes.
So
And that,
that would be enough to disturb a lot of people.
yeah, and the way he did it was silly. And the thing is, it wasn't her who killed him, it was her lover.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking, which soap opera are we watching here? I hadn't seen it for a while and I thought, I like that movie because I read the book of Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb, and it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
They have a whole different idea.
Uh, excuse me a minute. I'm going to have to blow my nose.
That's okay. Okay, that's all right. That's nice. Anything else? Any more crackers or anything? So what's the weather like where you are?
Well, there's several inches of snow on the ground from a big old storm we had earlier in the week.
Mm,
It's cold, but you know, it's Iowa.
and it's winter. Yeah,
Yeah, it's winter in Iowa. So what can I tell you?
that's true.
I'm I'm a native Californian.
Oh, I bet this is a shock.
Beg your pardon?
I bet this was a shock for your sister.
A little bit, yeah. There was a little bit of cultural shock, but there's. I've been here 20 some odd years now, and I don't miss a lot about California. I miss being able to go see the Giants
Aha.
when I want to, but you know they come to Milwaukee, they come to Chicago, they come to St. Louis. Um, Occasionally, they come to Kansas City and Minneapolis. So I do get to see them from time to time.
Well, that's
And of
good.
course, technology the way it is, I watch them almost every night.
I know you can see everything all the time.
Yes, yeah, MLB.TV.
I know, it's great. I think it's great though. You know, that
Uh,
we all get the chance to watch it
yeah,
without
well,
having to relive it all.
that was one of the interesting things that Bob Costas talked about yesterday was, you know, game of the week used to be exactly that, one game
Now it's
each
all,
week.
I know, I thought that was interesting because he just, he brought up a lot of things that most people don't even realize,
Right, right.
you know. And for me, well, I lived in Pittsburgh. When I lived in Pittsburgh, I lived beside the coach's house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pittsburgh is small, really, it is. But I lived beside some of the Steelers and some of the Pirates,
Ah,
and that was kind of fun.
yeah.
But I remember it was so bad with baseball that the tickets were $1 on Fridays.
Oh, really?
And I'd say, you know, I got to teach, and afterwards, it's time to go to the ball field because it was weird when you figure it's that bad that you have to say, here's is there a dollar? And you have people who are bona fide, I mean, they're season tickets. And then I felt bad because they're spending all this money and I got my dollar. But that ended a long time ago. So
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah. So other than that, I've been,
Thank you. Come on, guys. Let's get a few early birds in here.
well, yeah, but it's interesting. I do those fact checks for SABR, you know. And so
Yeah.
I'm finding interesting things about these people, all these different players, and checking to make sure all of it is right. You know, I just did another one the other day and just there's so much stuff that they're finding. It's interesting though. I like doing them.
So in yesterday's presentation, what did you think of course, it happens because it happens to all of us. Reggie Jackson looked horrible.
Oh my God. I
Believe
wasn't going to say anything, but yeah, I was waiting to see. Holy,
Wow. Poor Reggie. He's my age, and holy smokes, he might be a year younger.
it
Uh,
looked like he walked to Chicago and back. I mean, he just looked old.
and Dave Winfield, I hadn't seen him in a while.
I know.
And
I was
we
so shocked
we
with
used to
Reggie.
have we used to have a fan fest in January here in Des Moines that the
Mm,
ICUPs put on,
yeah.
and they bring people in to talk and sign. In fact, at the very first one, the luncheon speaker was Costas.
Huh.
And yeah, and actually, was he pinch hitting for someone? No, that was a year or two later. We were supposed to have Stan Musial, and his wife got sick,
Oh,
and instead we had George Brett.
George Brett.
So yeah, that was quite fun.
Yeah.
So well, we had Joe Morgan, we had John Miller, uh, We had Bob Brenly, Tony Gwynn.
Holy crap.
It went on for, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, with all those names, it went on longer than I remember. Who's here? Somebody I don't recognize.
Just stop
But-
video. I don't know why.
Admit. And there he is.
There, another person.
Welcome, Paul. Oh, he's not connecting yet. Now he's connected.
Hey.
Oh, but he's muted. Can you hear me, Paul? Oh, he took his mute button off. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, there you are.
Yep.
Hey.
I Zoom about 12 hours a week. So,
Oh, you're used to all this. This is my first hosting job.
all right.
I've been to a few, not 12 a week, but I've been to a few. It's pretty amazing technology.
Yeah, we use it for court. And then I have a grad school class that's by Zoom. So,
Ah, okay. And where are you?
I'm in Austin,
Texas?
Minnesota.
Oh, Austin, Minnesota. Okay.
Yep.
Did you send me an email? I think I remember the name. Saying that you preferred Sunday over Saturday? Maybe not.
I haven't sent anything this year. I actually didn't even know about the meeting till yesterday. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's when the email went out. That's
Yeah.
probably when Karen got it too.
Hi.
So we're just getting started. I got it started a little early since it's my first hosting job. I wanted to make sure everything was going okay. Are you in the SABR chapter, the Iowa chapter?
I'm in,
You're in the Halsey Hall chapter, probably.
yeah, I kind of do both.
Okay.
Then
Cool.
with the Zoom, I've actually been able to do some of the Milwaukee meetings too.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, I got notice of the Milwaukee meeting when they talked to all the new members, but I wasn't able to make that. So I was kind of disappointed. By members, I meant all the new major leaguers from Wisconsin. That was a week or two ago, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I bet that was interesting.
Yeah, I think the next one is combined with Chicago, and they're going to talk seam heads, I think.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's pretty timely right now with the major leagues. I thought Costas's take on it was perfect. Recognize them as major leaguers. Let's let the stats go by themselves, okay? We can't combine the stats. That's ridiculous. Who came up with that idea?
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody in what's his name's office.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to combine the stats. I think you can certainly list them, but
Sure, you can look them up on Baseball Reference, but try to combine them, that's crazy. Well, like he said, you're going to drag Willie Mays' lifetime batting average down from 302 to 301? Ridiculous. So what are your chief baseball interests?
I do mostly Negro League, but I've been actually doing a lot more of the black baseball in Iowa.
Oh,
And then, so my blog is the Iowa Town Ball, doing some of the tournaments down there. This next
yeah.
one will be the 1937 Texas Black Spiders. They won the Iowa State Semi-Pro Championship.
Wow.
And then Algona Brownies I'll probably do later in the month, but they won it in 38 for Black History Month.
What's your blog?
Iowa Town Ball. I linked to it on the Facebook page.
I see. Okay. And yeah, I guess you heard that the last living Kansas City Monarch passed away last week.
Yeah.
He was here in Iowa. I mean, Des Moines. He was here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm part of a very what's the word I'm groping for? Informal group that used to meet at the Cub Club at Principal Park.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they haven't met. They would meet 4 or 5 times a year. They haven't met this year because of the pandemic. And he came to one of the meetings before I found out about the group.
Huh.
So yeah, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember his name. Earl something? Earl Robinson? No.
Yeah, might be it.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm going to turn off the TV here. I got background noise.
I didn't hear much, did you?
I didn't hear anything.
It'll be interesting to see how many people show up who
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with. We have a pretty smallish, maybe a dozen or so hardcore Field of Dreams chapter members who
Okay.
come to meetings and things. Most of them I expect will be here today. But Paul is new, you're new, Karen. But that's the advantage of a Zoom meeting.
I know we get to see everybody.
From anywhere. Like they said, there were people, I think they said at the end, there were over 700 people taking part or watching the webinar yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
That's
amazing.
amazing. Because I watched Bob Costas. I thought that was really interesting.
Yep.
I'm walking through the Cooperstown. That was interesting too.
Yep. Did you see the webinar yesterday, Paul?
No.
Oh, you missed a good one.
Very good.
No, I had to go see my folks. So,
Well, that's important too.
yeah, they're still largely quarantined, so they don't get out and see many people. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was telling Karen a few minutes ago, I get my first shot tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm kind of excited about that. As you could tell, I'm an older gentleman, so I now qualify.
My doctor keeps telling me to call.
Yeah, keep calling, right?
Keep calling. So
Whoops. Oh, here's my buddy Ralph.
I went to the Oscar Charleston meeting the other night. Just out of curiosity. I've been reading his book and I thought that's a really neat.
Oscar
Isn't it?
Charlton chapter?
Yes.
I see. And where are they?
I have no idea. I just walked in and just decided to I was interested in some of the topics.
Gotcha.
And that's all I didn't have any need to be there really, but it was fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure. My guess is Indianapolis for that chapter, but
The Indianapolis Clowns, I think it is. So they
Ah,
talked about the clowns.
okay.
yeah, he coached later in his life after well, he bounced all over, but after his time with Pittsburgh, I think, was he with the Crawfords?
Crawford's, yeah.
Yes.
Weren't there 2 pretty
Well-
famous teams from
Well, it
Pittsburgh?
was actually,
The
I think
Homestead Grays and the
Pittsburgh
Crawford.
Crawfords.
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, so yeah.
Come on, Ralph.
So you were talking about you're in the Negro League stuff, and that's interests me. What are you dealing with now? Any characters, any persons?
For me,
Yeah.
Well, right now, the kind of Texas black spiders are 1930s, and they
Okay,
were kind of I guess what you would say is they would be like a minor league team to the major league teams. Players would gain experience and move up to the Monarchs or Chicago American Giants. And since I had time and couldn't go anywhere, I've downloaded a ton on the old Algona Brownies. But I'm close to having that project done, but I need to get to a couple libraries to finish it off. So, and then in September, I did a presentation for the Women in Baseball Conference.
What I would love to hear you talk about.
so did I.
With Black Spiders had their female pitcher.
I did the Dolly Vardens at
Yeah.
that conference.
Okay, yep, I'm connecting you now. So I'm waiting to get down to Charles City to get more information on the game, whether she actually pitched against Bob Feller or not.
This is taking off my Dominion hat, putting on my kind of longtime Republican hat. I still remember him at the 2004 Republican convention in New York, standing in the middle of Madison Square Garden, America's mayor, already one of the front runners for our presidential nomination in 2008. And it is a sad and shocking fall to where we are today.
Ralph, did you hear me?
I should say so. Michael Steele, I'm glad to have you on to talk about this. Please keep us informed on what's happening with Dominion and come back
Ralph?
Thank you so much. Good to see you. Arguing the damage wrought by Donald Trump coming up why the destruction to the nation might be worse than most of us realize.
Ralph, can you hear me?
You're clearly someone who takes care of yourself. So why wait to screen for colon
Turn
cancer?
off your
Because
TV,
the
Ralph.
It's more treatable. I'm colon. I'm not invasive. It detects altered DNA.
I'm going to have to mute you, Ralph. Ralph and I share season tickets to the iCubs. Hey, Ralph? There he is. Hey. Got your video going. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Ralph.
Yay, Ralph, you're here. Okay.
Yep. Trying to figure this thing out. I haven't done a Zoom in a few days, several months. So
Well, we're showing up here one by one. There's 4 of us so far.
good. How many do you think you're going to have?
I'm sorry?
How many people are you going to have?
I have no idea.
Okay.
At least 4. I'm trying to figure out here. I saw a button at one point, how to mute everyone and then unmute them. But we'll just put everybody on, at least in the beginning, put everybody on their honor to not over talk.
Okay.
See how that goes.
Yeah.
Turn your TV off, Ralph.
It is off now.
Okay.
Forgotten I had it on.
Yeah. Got 2 more people now showing up. Oh, Mike made it. And Ryan Schroer. Okay. All right. Aha, the pictures are getting smaller.
So you're controlling the pictures as well.
Not really. This is my first time hosting, and so
Well, actually, I'm smaller. I mean, I look like El Giganto in the beginning.
if you pull your Ralph, if you pull your screen, are you on you're on a laptop, I presume?
No, I'm on a tablet.
Oh, okay. Well, tilt the tilt the tablet a little bit. You'll get a better better headshot.
Okay.
There's Mike.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty good.
Mike's
Hey,
on.
you got that fixed now, Ralph. I was going to say, that I've often heard that as a political scientist, I've often heard historians being referred to as working in the dark, but you didn't have to make it so literal.
Yeah, do a lot of that.
Mike, how you doing?
Good.
Here's somebody new that I don't know the name of. I'm gonna get a few of those today, I'm sure. Oh, Brian Dietzler.
Hey, Steve, I've got an administrator for, and I think you and I and whoever admin of the, when Tim turned it over, the Facebook group to us, can let people in, but my expectation is that residence is not an issue, but you must be a SABR member to be in the Facebook group.
I am a SABR member.
No, I'm not questioning. What? Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. So is that, I'm not questioning that's not a question for people who are in the group. I'm just wondering, Steve, when people ask to enter, all we need to do is check and be sure they're SABR members?
I don't even know if that's the case. I
Okay.
have nothing to do with setting up the Facebook page. I think
Okay.
Tim did that. So maybe I'll check with Tim. I don't know if that was his plan or not.
Every
know,
group
what can I
has usually there's a statement about eligibility. It won't necessarily show up, but we can look, one of us can look for it and see. I think we just need to make I'm not sure that it matters very much how it was set up. I think the chapter needs to make a decision about whether anybody can come in or whether we basically say you got to be a SABR member. I'd be very reluctant to base it on residence because we got people like Tim or RJ.
Or
who-
Paul up in the corner there. Paul's, from Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we want it to be available geographically to
Sure.
anybody who's interested in Iowa baseball, but I don't know whether we should require SABR membership or not.
Well, when I did the Oscar Charleston, when I applied to talk to just attend, they asked me, I was a SABR member. So I had no problem at all.
I actually run the Louisville, the Kentucky chapter page, and I don't require membership. I just basically ask them if they are a member and they're interested in joining, and I tell them about the group. It's a great way for Facebook is a great way for non-members to be introduced to SABR.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I just wanted some clarity about it because, as people come up as potential members or asking to be let in, we need to be consistent is all I'm saying.
Yeah. And the membership issue might be a SABR thing. And so I'll double check with the home office and see if they have any issue with that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That would kind of be the final answer.
Yeah, as with most things. Have they ever clarified or gotten their act straight on use of their web server? Hosting
not
web
that
pages?
not that I'm aware of.
John, do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Hey, John.
Hey, Steve. Everybody else?
Hey, Craig.
Hey, John.
Whoops, sorry. My phone sometimes has a mind of its own.
Your what does?
My phone. That was what that extraneous noise was. It just
Are you
started playing some kind of music. I didn't hear enough of it to know what, and I don't know why.
Are you doing this from your phone?
No, I'm on my
Oh.
laptop, but my phone was sitting next to me.
I see. Well, okay, everybody's starting to show up. Thanks, guys. Brian's new. Brian, turn on your unmute.
go.
There you go. Hey, Brian,
Hello.
how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, there's enough of us here that I'm going to set down a rule here. So that I don't really want to mute everybody. This is my first time hosting, so I'm kind of trying things out. I don't really want to mute everybody. So let's try and be careful, of talking over someone. But if it gets a little out of hand, then I'll find out how to mute folks, and we'll go from there and unmute them as they want to talk. But I think we're familiar enough that we can go this way. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thumbs up and a yes. Perfect. Okay.
Steve, just a
Yes.
suggestion, since we have some new people, maybe take a minute and have everybody go around and introduce themselves.
agree.
Yes, I was going to do that. As we do on a typical meeting.
Okay,
I think
Steve,
that's important. Yeah.
Steve, the order is going to be different on everybody's screen. So I
Right.
suggest that you call out the names
Yes.
in order on your screen.
Yeah, I figured that out. I've been to enough Zoom meetings, and you yourself shows up number one usually, and it says you, and so and the others bounce around. So yeah, we'll do it that way. I'll just sort of call out the names that show up on my screen. Let's wait a couple more minutes. It's only 5 after 1. There's Daryl. I haven't seen Daryl in ages. Come on, Daryl. It's funny, you hit admit and then it takes a little while.
Mhm.
Where's the new Brian? I mean, not Brian. Brian's here. There's Daryl. Hey, Daryl. You have sound?
Hi there.
Okay, you do. Good.
Yes, I do.
Here's Alex.
Steve, I'd make a suggestion as we introduce ourselves, at a minimum, where we're calling from or logging in from, if we are SABR members or not, and maybe just a sentence or two about a particular interest in baseball, or what club we're fans of.
Yeah, that sounds good, Mike. I think it's safe to assume we're all SABR members, because people wouldn't know about this if they weren't a SABR member. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to confirm it. Come on, Alex, turn your.
Well, I just did, and it said it was disabled.
Oh, really? Why is that? Oh,
I don't know.
That's probably a setting on
there you
your.
go. There it
There
is.
you are.
Okay. Well, all right. So there's been a couple more. Let's get started. The one ground rule I have so far is that I'm going to leave the mute buttons off unless it gets kind of crazy, everybody talking over one another. Besides that, I have to go find how to turn them off, unless maybe I can just do them one at a time. But anyway, let's see if we can just get by without having to worry about the mute buttons. And then Mike suggested, and I was planning on doing this anyway, I'm going to call out everybody's name because everybody's in a different order probably. And we'll just give your name, where you're calling from, are you a SABR member, and a brief description of your baseball interest. Is that what you said, Mike? I think, yeah, I think that's close. Okay. So up in the corner here, we have Karen. Karen was the first one to join me today.
Yes. I'm Karen Holleran, and I'm from Leland, North Carolina. I am a SABR member, and I am a Pirates fan. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I'm interested in the Negro League and the 19th century women in baseball.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I'm next. I'm Steve Ellsberry. I'm from California originally. I moved to Des Moines in 1997. Yes, I'm a SABR member and a lifelong Giants member. Paul, you're up next.
Okay, Paul Spahlski. I'm from Austin, Minnesota. My research interests are pretty varied. My article on the Mason City Black Bats was published by the chapter on their website. Currently working on the Algona Brownies and continuing work with the Texas Black Spiders and some other Iowa projects. And started a blog on Iowa Town Ball. And if you have questions about why, we can go into that later.
Okay, thanks. Ralph, you're up.
Okay, I'm Ralph Christian. I live in Des Moines. I have been a SABR member for many years, and I'm a Cubs fan and a Tigers fan. And research interests, I've been working on Des Moines and the Black Sox scandal for many years, and have a wide range of interest in baseball.
Okay, Mike, you're up.
I'm Mike Coview. I'm calling from Ames, Iowa. I originally am from East Tennessee, Oak Ridge, which has to do with one of my research interests. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm a lifelong Tigers fan. My dad was from Detroit, and as he put it, the way he described his fandom was that folks from New York thought that Babe Ruth was the greatest player of all time, while Tiger fans knew that Ty Cobb was the greatest player of all time. I am also an Iowa Cubs fan, not particularly Chicago Cubs, but share season tickets to the Iowa Cubs and really enjoy the AAA atmosphere and the atmosphere of Principal Park. The research interest I indicated on, I've not published anything on it. It's probably much longer term than I thought because it takes a long time to collect the data. It's in odd places, is on the patterns of failure of minor league baseball teams that failed, which isn't a current phenomenon particularly. My interest in that stems from the fact that Oak Ridge, which with about 30,000 people, had two failed minor league baseball teams, and towns of that size in the late 40s and early 50s, simply their baseball teams didn't fail. That was plenty of fan base, and it didn't work out either time, both times in the Mountain States League. So there you go.
Thanks. Doug, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Winke. I'm calling in from West Des Moines. I've been a SABR member for about 30 days. And one of my research interests that I would like to dig into as I stay with SABR is how the I'm a Rockies fan, and my main research interest would be how to actually build a pitching staff in Coors.
Okay, thanks.
You can do that?
Well, that 27 years in, and we're not quite sure. So that's why I want to figure that out.
Good up. Craig, unmute yourself.
Oh, very good. I'm Craig Getch. I'm in Des Moines. I was a guest last year when we had the meeting at the brewery in West Des Moines, and joined shortly after that. So I'm a relatively new member to SABR. I grew up in Davenport in a Cubs household. The first major league team I saw was the Cubs in Wrigley. All of my family are Cubs fans, and while they remained very near and dear to me, at age 7, I discovered, as Bob Costa said, our guy, Mickey Mantle, and I've been a Yankees fan for more than 60 years as a consequence. So although my cap today is Fields of Dreams, I just thought it's very apropos since this is the Fields of Dreams. And I do have a motion that I think we ought to petition MLB to let our league have priority seating at the game this summer. So since we are the Fields of Dream team, so that's just a side thought. Don't really have a big research interest. I'm been in fantasy league with Mike for a long time. I was not an original member. And then for the last 7 years, I've participated in a league that Daryl's the commissioner of, a vintage league. And I also take my cap off to Daryl, who beat me in the World Series recently. So
Thanks. John, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm John Liepa. I'm calling from West Des Moines. SABR member since 1986, retired college professor, history and political science. And I taught Iowa history for years. So an outgrowth of that was my interest in the origins of baseball here in Iowa. And I've written numerous articles for publications, Iowa Heritage Illustrated and the Iowa History Journal. And I wrote 16 articles for the Iowa Cubs yearbook, all relating to Iowans in the major league. And I do have an extensive baseball card and memorabilia collection. A lot of you have seen it. And since I've retired, I've given 152 presentations all over the state of Iowa, and including to the National SABR meeting in Chicago and presentations in Kansas City. And that's one reason I retired from full-time teaching, was so I could do what I really love.
Right. John's going to talk about that Field of Dreams game here shortly that you asked about, Craig. Next up is Brian.
Yeah, my name is Brian Deitzler. I'm calling in from Oxford, Iowa, close to Iowa City. I've been a SABR member for about 2.5 months now. And my main interests are, well, my favorite teams are Chicago and New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox. My main areas of research interest are Jackie Robinson. I'm actually writing a chapter in a book for SABR about Jackie Robinson right now, and Lou Gehrig. So, and I'm interested in learning more about his career and doing some research on Lou. So.
Thank you. Steve, you're up. Another Steve. Yep, unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, this is Steve Dunn from Des Moines now. Excuse me, I think I'm getting a sore throat. So I've been a SABR member since 2014. As you can see, my main interest is that since the 1950s, when my dad started taking me to Wrigley Field. And I've written 6 game stories for SABR and 6 bios and 4 game stories for SABR. So anything about the Cubs, and I also like looking into the Negro Leagues too. I think that's pretty fascinating.
All right, thanks, Steve. Alex, you're up.
Excuse me. I'm Alex Kleiner. I have lived in Iowa for 50 plus years, but I grew up in Houston, which means that I'm an Astro fan, which my wife, who's a Houston native, frequently reminds me that I support cheaters. I've been a SABR member since 1994, when my brother-in-law, who at the time was part owner of the Fort Worth Cats, gave me a membership. And I say been a lifetime Astro fan, meaning the Astros lifetime, since I'm much older than they are. And my research interests, which are currently stalled, are a couple of small projects applying some kind of advanced mathematical ideas to some baseball facts, since I spent a career as a professor of mathematics at Drake University.
Right. Daryl, you're up next.
Okay. I shut my camera off to save on bandwidth because we have another computer that's watching a basketball game with our granddaughter in it. I watched the first one. It's a doubleheader. My wife is still watching the second one. So if you hear any screaming or hollering, that's where it's coming from. But when I'm not talking, I'm going to shut off my camera. First of all, because I'm eating lunch, and secondly, as I said, to save on bandwidth. I'm Daryl Hansen. I currently live in Altoona, where I've lived since 2008. Grew up in Elkader, and across the street from former Major League second baseman Jack Detmer. And then I moved to Manchester, where I spent most of my adult years. And I wish I could remember the guy's name now, but Manchester was the temporary home of a very early baseball player who once claimed that he invented the term Charlie horse. But I can't remember his name now. But anyway, to the extent that I am a fan of a current team, it would be the Cardinals. But I'm also a season ticket holder for the Iowa Cubs. We decided early, my wife and I, that even though we're Cardinals fans, that we would root for the home team. So we root for the Iowa Cubs, but when they get promoted to the majors, they're dead to me. But so we enjoy the iCubs. Research. I've been a SABR member since very early 80s. I joined for the materials, dropped out because I just wasn't getting much other benefit. And then when I found out that there was a local chapter, I joined again and have been a member ever since. And my interests include, I had really had this plan to be very involved in the bio project, but I've only completed 2 bios. I just haven't had the discipline to reinforce my interest, to actually get to work on more bios. I need to start doing that sometime. And as Craig mentioned, I'm the commissioner of an internet computer simulation baseball league. We started in 1927. It's a draft league where we just throw all the players in the middle and in the pool and draft a team and then proceed through the years. And the computer games are actually, we just finished the 1970 season, where, as Craig mentioned, I beat him in the World Series. But my team is going into a tailspin after 1970. So I'm in a rebuilding cycle. So with that, I'm going to shut my camera back off for a while.
Thanks, Daryl.
As somebody who's also a charter member of that league, the Vintage Baseball League, whenever Daryl says a team going into a tailspin, take it with a large dose of salt.
Ryan Shore, is it?
It's Schreier. I'm a member of the Louisville SABR board, and I'm calling for Columbus, Indiana. Huge Cup fan, and I just enjoy talking baseball. I'm pretty much interested in learning all I can about the sport because I'm a sports writer, and it's really these Zoom meetings have been helpful for me to get my baseball fix while I'm during the off season. So I'm glad to meet all of you today and looking forward to learning some new stuff.
Thank you. Stu just joined. Stu, can you hear me?
You're muted.
Yes. Hi, folks. How are you? I'm happy to see Ryan on this call too, because Ryan and I seem to be on a lot of the same Zoom meetings. We love these things, and I'm happy to join you folks. I recall a number of years ago, we had a joint meeting down at the Music Man place and in Mason City. That was fun, and it's always great because Steve is able to make it up to our meetings a lot. So thank you for having me.
We only see the top of your head, Stu.
What's that?
We only see, there you go.
There. Okay. If I sit back in my chair, I tend to slouch.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. You sorry you missed all the other intros.
My bad. I mess up times. This was easy. This is Central Time. And for some reason, I was thinking it was 2 o'clock. Usually I've got an excuse if it's like Newfoundland time and I messed that up, but no excuse here.
No excuse. Okay.
Your name is very familiar to many of us, but why don't, for the benefit of everybody, why don't you at least tell us where you're calling from?
Oh, me? I'm in Minnesota. So I'm with the Halsey Hall chapter. Yeah, so not too far away. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, so it's only a couple 100 miles down the road when a bunch of us came down Mason City that one time, and I'm hoping maybe we could do something like that again.
Yeah, I've often thought that too. I thought I had a pretty good time that day, and there must be a place just across the border on the other side where we could meet too, just to be fair.
Maybe the Spam Museum.
You know, that would be outstanding. And
I can arrange
we have
that.
Paul, maybe Paul can host us because I see he's on here, and he'd be our Austin connection.
Ah, there you go. Paul just slipped. Oh, there he is. He took his camera off. Okay.
Just saving bandwidth.
No problem. Saving bandwidth, right. You and Daryl. Okay.
Yep.
Not a problem. Well, let's see. Let's go with, John, did you say that, what's his name was going to be here today?
Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Lindsay sent me an email about an hour ago, and he had a couple of projects for his classes he had to finish up. So he can't join us today, but I can give you an update. You know, we've talked and we can get to that in a little bit.
Oh, you want to do that now and get it out of the way?
Well, did you want to talk about other things first, or about the Field of Dreams, or, and we can talk about it. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I have no agenda in front of me. So let's just kind of, do our thing, and you brought it up, so let's get that out of the way.
All right. Well, a number of you on this call are not familiar with what Steve's referring to. So Paul is, I know, and Daryl and Mike, Steve, but for a couple of years, we've entertained the idea of putting together an Iowa baseball almanac or encyclopedia. We haven't come up with, a title for it yet, a formal title. And 2 years ago, we met, 2.5 years ago, in the spring here in West Des Moines at the library. There were about 12 of us, including a number of people on this call, and explored the idea of collaborating to put together either a book or possibly developing a website. And with Steve Dunn's help, I contacted a couple of website developers and looked into costs and so on. Steve's worked with them. And we came up with, sort of a minimum of about $3,000 to start the process. The person that Steve Ellsberry was referring to is Lindsay Bell, just finished a PhD at Iowa State last year. And he's a professor of history now at Bemidji State up in Minnesota. Lindsay's a huge baseball fan. He did his doctoral dissertation on Kennesaw Mountain Landis. And I'm not sure which school allowed him to do that, but that's a pretty good deal. But anyway, Lindsay agreed to, he was for about 6 months unemployed while he waited to start his teaching last fall. And of course, not knowing about COVID. And so we were able, with the help of a lot of you on this call, to raise the $3,000 to get him started. And he is developing a website. We did explore both options, a book or a website. And there are pluses and minuses going both ways. But we thought in the short run that a website would give us a lot more flexibility. We wouldn't have to worry about, getting permission from different authors and being consistent. And Lindsay is going to put that website up within a matter of days. And he's already shown some preliminary work that he's done. And one of the things that Lindsay asked was for all of us that want to be part of this website to send whatever materials we want included to him. And I've got all the contact information. And then also a picture of yourself and a short bio of yourself, because this will be a collaborative effort on the part of a lot of people interested in Iowa baseball. The heart of the book, we explored different possibilities, but what I had suggested at the first meeting is there are 222 Iowans that have played in the major leagues, 7 in the Hall of Fame. And I basically said that should be the heart of the book. And then we can, add lots of other things to that, give a little extra space to the 7 Hall of Famers. And a lot of you have written bios, including myself, for SABR. Those can be part of the book. Years ago, Jerry Clark, who's a retired professor from University of Nebraska, he wrote a book, Iowa Players in the Major Leagues from Anson to Zuber. And it was an excellent book. It's been out of print for a long time. But obviously there are a lot of fellows that have made the major leagues since then. There were some factual errors in his book and so on. And this is an attempt, I think, to sort of revive that online. Lindsay has got a lot of it done. And, you know, he's been teaching 4 courses while he's doing this, all online up at Bemidji State, and just started his spring semester. And I think that's why he couldn't join us this afternoon. But I think we will be hearing from him. But I invite the rest of you that have not been involved with this project too. A lot of you have written, and maybe you're interested in contributing. Paul, I know your Algona Brownies article would be a fascinating one. A lot of talk about J.L. Wilkinson, who was born in Algona and so on. And that, but anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with the book project. Lindsay said for the time being, he's got, you know, plenty of money to keep this thing going. We did raise, I think, Mike, you know that, you sent the checks. I think it was a total of about $3,000.
I don't have at hand, and I don't want to log into the website and take into my credit union website to check the account. There is about $150. The way we did this is not formally a project of the chapter or SABR, but we used essentially the account that I have set up for this chapter to funnel the money. Checks go in and the same amount essentially is going out to Lindsay, except there's still $150. And I'd forgotten that, and I realized it a couple of days ago because normally I'd send him sort of larger amounts at once. But since it's been quite a while since we've received anything, I think I'm inclined just to go ahead and send him a check for that last amount. By the way, in the way of a treasurer's report, the chapter has about $55 in assets. So we're not a high volume operation. But yeah, I think you're right, John. I think it's somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 that we've paid Lindsay.
I think Mike made a good point here, is that I know that SABR created last year a new editorial board to oversee a lot of the projects. So this is not a SABR project. I think a lot of the things that we've written would not have, you know, complied with the requirements that SABR has for its bio project and so on. And those articles were submitted, and we didn't want to exclude anyone. A lot of the articles deal with things such as the first night game in Des Moines. They deal with brothers that played from Iowa in the major leagues. A lot of different topics are in there. I wrote one on Calvin McVeigh, the first professional player from Iowa, played for the Cincinnati Red Stockings and so on. And so, you know, but at least it is started, and it's going to be ongoing. Lindsay said he could probably maintain the website at a much cheaper cost than we earlier thought. He could $250 to $300 a year, and which I think is very manageable. But it's going to be an ongoing project, and I think it'll change as we go ahead and do this. The heart of the project will still be the Iowans that have made the major leagues, and then we can add a lot of other information about Iowa baseball to that, whether it's on ballparks or you know, umpires, or it's on minor leagues, or the Clarinda Cardinals, or whoever it might be. And that, so that's a little bit, and I can try and answer questions if anybody has any. Unfortunately, Lindsay couldn't join us today, but I'll make sure the next time we meet that Lindsay is part of the meeting.
John, a couple of suggestions. One, I think that we have a pretty good geographic representation. So if you're in an area where particularly, or are familiar with a baseball in a particular town, and there are highlights that you think ought to be either the subject of even very short articles, then I think it obviously would be very desirable if you could write it yourself. But if not, I think providing to Lindsay this doesn't mean he'd necessarily have to write and research the article, but the idea, so that if somebody at some point that could be put out to the membership to see if anybody you know, wants to latch onto it or already has knowledge of a particular subject. One other thought that I not mentioned to you before, John, but occurs to me with the different teams in Iowa, I think something that might be interesting not necessarily something that a professional historian would be very appreciative of, but I think would be of general interest, might be a timeline of baseball in Iowa events. Obviously, there's some obvious things like the night baseball in Des Moines, or Kel McVeigh's birth date, or something like that. But every town that has had a team there might be something significant about it. Oh, one other thing, and there's one subject that I think is very timely, and that would be community baseball. Community-owned teams in organized baseball. And the reason I think that's timely is because Burlington and Clinton are examples, and they are not part of the reorganization plan for the minor leagues. Those two teams may very well be gone at this point as organized baseball teams. They may be able to find homes in independent leagues, but and I think that particular history might be would be something that would be worth having, worth preserving in some fashion. And maybe it could be part of advocacy for keeping teams in places like that.
One thing I would just add to Mike's comment, when I was doing the research on the origins in Iowa, I did develop a 19th century timeline of, the first meetings, the first clubs, the first games, starting in 1858 in Davenport. And that's the first documented organized meeting of a baseball club in Iowa. And basically taking it up to 1900, Ralph has done the same thing for a chronology of Des Moines baseball, and a very, very good timeline. So we've got a good start, but we obviously did it with the early days of baseball, and didn't do anything in a particular order after that, after early 1900s. But yeah, that would be pretty easily done. I think the challenge would be, what do you include on the timeline? How do you limit yourself? You could put a lot of things on a timeline like that. But yeah, that should be part of both the website and, if at ever a point we get to developing a book, I mean, a chronology, having taught history, you need a chronology, in a book or whatever we do with that. So, but I think there's a good start on that already.
Okay.
Guys saw where Burlington is going to be part of a collegiate summer league now.
Okay. Is the ownership going to be similar to what they've had in the Midwest League?
I think so. It's like community owned still, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody know about Clinton? We had a chapter meeting in Clinton a couple of years ago, and that was pretty interesting. I could say it was one of the most sparsely attended baseball games I've ever been to.
Well, Tommy Birch had an article in the Register that Clinton and Burlington are both going to be part of that Wood Bat Summer League. I mean, so it sounds like they're going to be doing the same thing.
Is it the Northwoods League or a different one?
No, it's not part of any organized league. It's a collegiate league is what it is.
No, the Northwoods League is a collegiate league. That's the one that Waterloo is in.
Yeah.
Is it part of that league?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Because that would give them some natural rivalries right off the bat. Poor choice of words, I guess.
I just realized instead of wearing my River Bandits cap, I should have worn my Lumber Kings cap to mourn the loss of their organized baseball connection.
Yeah.
It appears that it's the Prospect League, which I think is more Illinois based for franchises than the North.
Okay. Well, Daryl, I guess I could offer that the cap I have might be taken as mourning for those two teams, because even though it's a Des Moines baseball cap, it's the 1903 Undertakers.
Yeah.
John, do you have any other or are there other suggestions for things that might move this forward?
Well, the first thing, I said this a few minutes ago, is that I would welcome input from the rest of you that have not been part of this project. A lot of you are writing, doing research and so on. And we do want to make this, as Steve suggested too, we want to make people from all over the state part of the project. It's going to have a wider appeal. Indiana and New Hampshire developed books a few years ago. And again, not through SABR. Indiana has 354 native-born Indianans that played in the major leagues. But the book is only useful, there's short bios on each of those players. And, you know, it's easy to do that here in Iowa, but I don't think it would be appealing to a much broader audience than baseball nerds. And that's why we're trying to make this a little bit broader, like a coffee table book with a lot of good pictures. The bios are interspersed in there, but then a lot of other articles that might appeal to people. And so, you know, and when I put together one of my articles on the origins of baseball, what I did is I documented alphabetically by hometown where those, at the time, 206 major leaguers were from. And, you know, Algona has 3 major leaguers that nobody's ever heard of. And, but, you know, then small towns like Lost Nation has 2, Neola has 2. And it really, if you look at a map of Iowa, out of the 99 counties, I think it's 84, 85, if I remember right, that produced at least 1 major leaguer. And then, of course, you know, the cities that are big, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, produced a lot of major leaguers. Dubuque produced about 7 or 8. So it's a nice, you know, sort of representation of both small town. One of the articles was on towns of less than 1,500 that produced more than 2 players, 2 or more. And we've got quite a few of those here in Iowa. But there's a lot of things can go into a book like this, and that's where the appeal is going to be. If you have an article on, you know, on Bancroft, Iowa in there, you'll sell some copies, you know, or at least you'll get some visitors on the website. That's a great baseball town.
You know, you suggested when you're talking about that, and particularly players from Des Moines, it occurs to me that something else that you could do on a website is we have a large collection, if we can find them, of trivia that have been developed, questions that have been developed for our meetings. One of the questions is one that I used on a trivia quiz a few years ago, and I just posted it to a Facebook group, a national Facebook group, Baseball Trivia and Statistics. And the question was, who was the major leaguer who is a native of Des Moines, Iowa, solely by virtue of his father's baseball career? And just as an example, the answer is Jerry Hairston Jr., whose father, Jerry Hairston Sr., was playing for the Iowa Oaks at the time in the American Association. But the point is basically that that might be, I hadn't thought about that before, something that could be on a website. I'm not suggesting that, you know, I'm not suggesting that you post it every day or anything like that, just a chapter of trivia questions that have to do with Iowa baseball.
How hard do you want to make the questions?
Well, we'll also provide answers too, you know, so people, it's more entertainment than a contest, more sort of matters of interest. Karen, I had a question. I have both of my stepdaughters are in North Carolina. And so I've taken a little bit of interest, not a lot, but it seems to me that there actually are quite a few books on baseball in North Carolina.
I have not read them.
Okay.
I've been doing fact checks and writing papers on all kinds of baseball things. Okay. I had an interest in one person I did a fact check on was Ralph Bell, that was in Iowa. And I thought he was kind of an interesting character. I also found interesting, like the cup of coffee, what happens with that. I've been doing stuff on who was the idea of the peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Who started that? You know, that kind of stuff. Basically innocuous things that I find interesting. You know, like Trixie Verganza. That's another one. If anybody knows about her. She was the reason why we have Take Me Out to the Ball Game. She was their inspiration for the song. And I always thought that was kind of interesting because
sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, Trixie Verganza. And he was a mistress of the guy who wrote it. And his wife found out and she divorced him and he married somebody else. But it's just like that whole interest of, like I said, innocuous information. But it was kind of interesting about how you got that song.
Well, she was the original Katie Casey.
Yes, she was.
Cool.
And so that kind of stuff, I thought it was kind of interesting to see. That kind of stuff interests me. But I like doing the fact checks. And I like just looking at all kinds of information to make sure that it's right, it's correct. You know, and sometimes people make mistakes about dates and everything, but this stuff is really, it fascinates me. And I'm still trying to figure out, I lived in Davenport for 14 years. And in Bettendorf, there was one of the Negro League players. And I can't remember who it was.
Probably Gene Baker.
Gene Baker.
Okay, because I was going to go visit him and something happened and I didn't get a chance.
Unfortunately, he has passed away. He was like, I think he was like a bus driver for the city of Davenport.
Yes, he was. And I kind of thought it was interesting, but I couldn't remember his name. Thank you.
He was part of the double play. He was part of the double play combination with Ernie Banks.
Yeah.
It actually was brought up to the major leagues primarily to provide a roommate for Ernie Banks, because there was this whole concern about finding a roommate. And Baker was a much better player, I think, sometimes than he's given credit for.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad I found that. It was driving me crazy to find out the name. I knew the place, but I didn't know the name. So yes, thank you.
Once we get that website up, John, could the link be sent to all the SABR members in the chapter then so they can get access to it?
Yes, that'd be interesting. If anybody wants me to do some proofreading or just checking things on facts, I can also do that. I'm working on some stuff now, but you know, I'm interested.
I was talking about the website that John was talking about. Once we get that up and running, it'd be nice if all the SABR members had access to that website then.
Oh,
great.
Yeah, for sure. When that happens.
Well, when it happens, I'll work through Steve Ellsberry and make sure that all of you, you know, find out how you can contribute to that and be part of that.
Yes, thank you.
I've got a question about those two timelines. John, the 19th century one, and Ralph, the Des Moines one. Are those published somewhere, or could you send those to us so that we, there may be things that others of us could fill in?
Sure.
Mine is published in Iowa Heritage Illustrated. And also when I do my presentations, I had professional props developed by a museum or for display that was at the old Capitol in Iowa City in 2006. Pam White, who ran the old Capitol, my collection was on display for 2 months, and then we had a symposium in West Branch, and we brought in some of the people that were in the movie The Final Season on Norway Baseball.
Right.
And the props, I was going to show you one of them anyway when I talk about the Field of Dreams, but she paid to have these developed. There's one for each of the 7 Hall of Famers, a huge map of Iowa with a location of where every major league player up through the year 2006 is from. And then a wonderful kind of a quote from Jerry Clark's book that I would put in front of a podium when I did my programs. Let me just take a second and show you one of them of Urban Faber from Cascade. And you get an idea. These are about 4 feet tall. But let me hold it up for you. I brought it up here.
Probably be helpful if you put, people put their,
if you can see that.
Their computers in speaker view.
But you get the idea. These are professionally done. And I'll talk a little bit later about what's going on at the Field of Dreams. But I think we have a great opportunity to be a very active part of the activities in Dyersville on August 12th. I talked to Roman yesterday, and I shared some of that with Steve Ellsberry already, and I can share more of that. But yeah, my timeline's available, and I can make copies. I've got it online. I can send it to anybody that wants it. But it documents basically from 1858 through about 1890. And it includes, you know, that girls were playing baseball in 1866 in Council Bluffs. There were African Americans playing baseball in 1867 in Keokuk. And we did that research a long time ago, but it's available both online, and then I have printed out copies. Ralph does too. I use Ralph's on Des Moines sometimes in my presentations.
Ralph, you said yours is available online too?
No, not that I know of. But when I did the original version, it was actually redone by someone else into the format. I could certainly just send you a copy, maybe, and maybe you can do some scanning or something with it.
Yeah.
Just to change the subject a little bit, for my own information, show of hands, how many watched the webinar yesterday? Oh,
I
good.
did.
Did you say you did, Daryl?
No,
Oh, okay.
I was scratching my chin.
A number of us did, and I thought it was quite well done. If anybody thinks otherwise, hold your tongue. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not aware. What webinar are you talking about? I wasn't aware of anything.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
It was the National Saber Days webinar. It was for 2 hours. They talked to Bob Costas and to Tim Mead, who is the new president of the Hall of Fame.
I guess I need to pay more attention to my This Week in Saber emails.
Or even just the front page of the Saber website.
Steve, I'm not sure, but I had the impression that they were recording the session yesterday. So
yes,
it may be
definitely.
available on the Saber website.
Okay.
Yes. If not, the
And
Saber
it's
website, YouTube.
It's not interactive, so watching the recording would be fine.
Right. I'm recording this, but I think it was automatic through the Saber Zoom account. So watch your tongues. I have nothing specific right now. John, do you want to go ahead with your Field of Dream thing?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And again, if anybody has any questions as I run through this, go ahead and just interrupt me. Oh, before I do that, I might mention something too. How many of you are aware of the podcast that the Iowa Cubs are making? If you go to the Iowa Cubs website, they're developing podcasts, and Randy Weyhofer introduced Michael Gardner in podcast number 1 and podcast number 2. Fascinating interviews. They run about a half hour. I think one's a little bit shorter and one's a little over a half hour. And Michael talks about his love of baseball and has some really interesting kind of anecdotal stories about Mike Quaddy, the former manager, and about, there were a couple of others that he shared. But the third one, Shelby Cravens, who's the communications person for the Iowa Cubs, and Alex Cohen, who's the broadcaster, the new broadcaster, they interviewed Tommy Birch. And I know Tommy has done a presentation for our SABR chapter before, but you might, see if you can get those and listen to them. They're going to be doing that, I think, all spring, developing a number of these podcasts. So a lot of good baseball stuff, especially, sort of on the Cubs and here locally. So, but anyway, having said that, let me give everybody kind of an update. Roman Weinberg is the director of operations for Go the Distance. And that's the corporation that is putting together the game on August 12th. And, they are working with a board that involves people from Dubuque, Dyersville, representatives of Major League Baseball. And the date has been set for August 12th, but it's going to be weeks of activity going on. In fact, they already have a small baseball exhibit at the Mississippi River Museum. A couple of the items from my collection are in that museum. And that was done not knowing that they'd have to cancel most of the season and everything else that was going on. I went to Dubuque last February, just before COVID struck, and I attended a couple of meetings and stayed there at the Hotel Julian. And it's kind of a loosely knit ad hoc committee that's working on putting some of these activities together. But I'll give you roughly an idea of what's going on. The key dates for all the activities will be August 7th through the 15th. And they'll be mostly in Dyersville, but they'll also be in Dubuque. And Dyersville, the site of the ballpark itself is totally off limits to anybody except Major League Baseball. Tight security for a number of reasons, and you won't be able to get out there at all. Somebody asked about tickets. Good luck. Sam Bernabas said that they will be like the hottest Super Bowl tickets ever. Last year, they were saying $5,000 a ticket if you're lucky. And but as some of us added, it would look pretty bad on ESPN to have or on Fox to have a game and no one from Iowa in the audience. So they will be setting up some kind of a way for Iowans, either a lottery or whatever, to get tickets to the game. But again, your chances probably improve if we are there helping out in whatever way we're involved. And Roman, as a graduate of Loras College, he's from Marshalltown. He's a young guy. He's, I would guess, late 20s, early 30s, but he's critical in what's going to happen up there on August 12th. The key days in Dyersville are going to be putting up a large tent downtown Dyersville on the main street. And they'll have booths available, 10 by 10 booths, for all kinds of different baseball-related organizations. We are guaranteed, the Iowa Field of Dreams chapter, a 10 by 10 booth at no cost to us because we're a nonprofit. And we can use that in any way we want to. We can promote our SABR chapter. We can have a small display on Iowa baseball. We can hand out flyers and leaflets from there. There will be a display from the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. There will be a display from Major League Baseball. There will be a display from the Hall of Fame. A lot of Major League players are committed already to coming. I'll give you an idea that some of those that have said they'll be there. Let's see. Reggie Jackson has said he will be there, and Wade Boggs will be there. Kerry Wood will be there. Jose Canseco will be there. Kurt Schilling will be there. And Roman basically flat out told me, if we want to hold a meeting, a SABR meeting sometime during that week, and then open it up to the public, a session with someone like Wade Boggs, he can make that happen. And so probably the key dates in terms of our involvement would be the 11th and 12th of August. And the reason I say that is that when the game is over on the evening of the 12th, I think a lot of the players that will be coming maybe a day or two before, they're probably going to leave on the 13th. And even though there will be activities going on, the 11th and 12th. Now, a couple of other things, when they originally had a schedule for last year, every room in about a 70-mile radius was sold out. And so I made a reservation at the Grand Harbor Inn on the river in Dubuque. I made it 3 months ago, but it's really pricey. And so I've blocked out a couple of rooms for myself for the entire week, but they may drop the price if they aren't able to fill them at the higher price. And people that were, basically involved with the activities in Dyersville, last year they were going to give a 15% discount on the rooms. Don't bother with the Hotel Julia in Dubuque. Major League Baseball has claimed that for the entire time period. They won't have any rooms available to the general public. And so, but I think we can start planning a number of things. Definitely a booth promoting, SABR. And I've been in touch with a couple of people at the National SABR offices. Dan Evans from SABR, who's a general manager for the Dodgers, or was a general manager. He's a longtime SABR member, and he's on that committee that's putting all the activities together. And what's Scott's last name that just started with SABR? I can't think of his last name now, but he's involved as well. And I've talked to both of them. So they're well aware that our chapter is ready to go and to be part of the activities, even though everything I'm saying is pending COVID. And, again, we just don't know how this thing is going to run itself out. I was fortunate enough 2 days ago, being 75, I got my shot, my first one. And, but it could be months, it could be well into the baseball season before it's safe to go out again. And so it will be the White Sox, we know that. And tentatively trying to get the Yankees back instead of the Cardinals. Sorry about that, Cardinal fans. And, but, we'll see what happens, but they're going ahead with all the plans. And I think it'll be an exciting time for baseball in Iowa. There'll be a lot of national coverage. Their guess is there might be as many as 24 major league players wandering around for those, 3 or 4 days there. And we have a booth guaranteed at no cost. And so, they haven't sent out anything yet statewide or nationally in terms of dates or times, because it's all subject to how they can open up the season and everything else. So, but that's a little bit about what I've learned yesterday from Roman. And Roman, we're in touch on a pretty regular basis. And I'll give updates again to Steve Ellsberry, and he can reach out to you guys and give you more information. But another thought I had too is that it would be nice to bring together SABR chapters from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois converging on Dyersville, and have a large SABR presence, which would benefit SABR nationally and hopefully each of the chapters in the states I mentioned. But the 11th and 12th of August, probably the two critical dates. And if we have a booth, probably get there the 10th and be set up whenever they, allow you in there on the 11th. And we could be, if we have some kind of a program with a player and open it up, they're looking for a site. They've got a possible site in the high school where we could do a meeting, and then maybe just a SABR member meeting, and then follow that up by having a major league player come in and speak to us and open it up to the public. But it should be a great way to promote SABR. So, and I offered 10 by 10 is a pretty good sized booth. And if we man this for 2 days, we'll need a lot of volunteers helping, probably minimally 2 at a time. And yeah, I don't think we'll have any trouble getting volunteers, Steve. But I think it should be just a great baseball week in Iowa with a lot of coverage. And I did offer to put up part of my collection on display, bring some showcases and put them on one side of the table. We can have an 8-foot table in the front with still room to get in behind and have some kind of a display on the walls, and we can pass out literature. I'm sure we can get some literature on SABR nationally. They're really good at getting out flyers on SABR and everything like that. And some nice signage out in front to promote SABR. It's probably the best chance we've had since this chapter was organized to promote ourselves. But anyway, that's kind of an overview.
What's the name of that hotel you said you got reservations at?
Well, it's called the Grand Harbor Inn and Water Park. It's right down by the casino in Dubuque. It's a beautiful area. And, but don't be scared away right now. The price of a room right now is $250 a night. Yeah. Well, hey, they've had a bad year, Steve. They're trying to make it up in a week. But there are plenty of other rooms in the area. There's 2 small hotels in Dyersville. I haven't even checked with them because I imagine they're filled up already, but it's worth a call. There's a lot of people are hesitating and waiting because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's going to be like trying to get a COVID shot. It's going to be a little bit of hit and miss. But you can always cancel the room. And that's why I went ahead and got the rooms, knowing that if I'm there for 2 nights and I have to pay more, I'll do it just to be part of what's going on.
Great. Thanks, John. At this point, I have nothing. I don't have an agenda. So I'll just sort of throw it open to anybody who wants to make an announcement or comment or whatever.
Steve, I would just add one comment. I mentioned to you yesterday that we have a new member, a SABR member, in the latest update from SABR Online. His name is Joel Fenton. He's from Urbandale. I don't know if anybody knows him, but when they list the new members, he just joined. So we need to reach out to Joel and every new member we get. I think, if I remember right, we have something like 80 members in the state of Iowa and over 130 across as members of the Field of Dreams chapter.
That surprises me if it's really 80. Yeah. We've been in the 50, 60 range for a long time, but I hope you're right.
Well, if there's one event that can bring them out of the woodwork, hopefully Dyersville in August can do that.
Right. Mike, your mic is off.
Yep. I wondered if anybody had any thoughts about
Kind of
the August
changing
meeting.
the
I
subject.
think having an August meeting in Dyersville or right in that area is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, that's clearly something we need to do. But I think that we probably ought to talk a little bit about whether we ought to try to schedule any other meetings. I think at least until August that we ought to assume that they're going to be on Zoom.
Yeah, I
I
was
do.
thinking of that a few minutes
Yeah,
ago.
I agree.
Maybe in a month or 6 weeks, we could have another Zoom meeting.
Well, and I don't know if this is a Zoom topic or not, and maybe it's too early, but I went to the to pay for the the balance, which was not very much, for my season tickets when I was in Des Moines recently, and I talked to Clayton Granquist, and we didn't talk about who it should be, maybe their financial person. But I think a topic that we might want to have, and maybe this year is too early, is the experience of bringing a minor league team through the pandemic. What they had to do, what they have not been able to do, and so forth. One piece of, I think, kind of a bright spot is the Iowa Cubs have managed to avoid laying off anybody from their full-time staff, which is, I think they did get a PPP loan, but I think it's pretty remarkable regardless and I think they've got about 20 full-time staff. Now, obviously, they didn't hire any of their part-time concessionaires or ushers or folks like that this year.
I think we probably had some cuts, though, some salary cuts.
Probably.
Yes, no, Mike?
Some what? I couldn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry, salary cuts. I bet they probably had some salary cuts.
I didn't ask.
Certainly no increases in pay.
Yeah.
No, but given the circumstances, I think not laying anybody off is probably itself pretty remarkable.
Oh, it is. I agree. I wasn't trying to talk that down, but
you're probably right.
Salary cuts are pretty common.
Yeah.
I
I see the Iowa Cubs just signed a 10-year agreement, major league agreement with the Chicago Cubs. So they're going to be an affiliate of the Chicago Cubs now for 10 more years.
Well, they I believe have by several years, the longest running agreement between a AAA club and a major league club ever, even without that additional 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I think that's correct. I think what's interesting about this 10-year agreement is I think the past agreements were typically like 5 years or something. Again, I think, I don't know if this is part of this whole new revamping of the minor leagues, but 10 years is a pretty long time for an agreement.
They were 2 to 4 years, and now they have to be 10 years. It's part of the new, the whole new structure of minor league baseball.
One of the things I read about, and I can't remember where, not regarding the Iowa Cubs, but maybe it had to do with the Quad City team, which did come back in to that team. That franchise appears to be saved. But I believe, I'm not sure if it was them or somebody else I read about. One of the things that's going on is the application of a non-disclosure agreement to the minor league teams. So they are not allowed to discuss the details of their agreements. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but to me, it's very bothersome if it is.
You're right. There were a couple of things that people were speaking out about. I think that was one of them. But obviously, if they sign that agreement, then they can't talk about how they're unhappy with the agreement.
Well, I think one of the issues that is going to arise immediately is I don't see how that works if they have, depending on the rental agreement they might have with a public owner of a stadium like Principal Park. I think it's probably a violation of Iowa law they certainly have to be able to discuss anything having to do with their rental agreement with the city of Des Moines. That can't be secret.
I need to leave. I'm throwing a dinner party and I haven't done anything yet except talk baseball.
And it's already 3 o'clock where you are.
I know, it's going to be in half an hour. I just got to throw something together.
Okay.
So,
not baseball related, we assume.
Peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
There you go.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for
Okay.
joining us.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, we all just got bigger.
So I wonder if anybody has any other ideas. The idea that I suggested of discussion of what it's taken to get through the pandemic probably is premature to do this year. So I wonder if there are any other ideas for programs. I think that we're in January now. We're probably talking about either March or early April. Steve?
We're in January, all right, but tomorrow's February.
Yeah, so mid-March to probably mid-March. And then again, if we do it in 6 weeks, that would be around the beginning of May.
6 weeks, March, April. No. 6 weeks would be middle of April.
So depending what you want for length, I've been doing some work on the semi-pro Iowa State League from 49 to 55. Depending on length of the program, it actually had an all-black baseball team in it in 1952, so that could be about a 20-minute program if you wanted something like that. And then my blog is Iowa Town Ball, so I've been tracking some semi-pro / town ball tournaments if we just want a general overview on something like that.
Great, Paul.
Well,
timing wise, what do you all think?
I think mid-March, because John might have more, he can update us on the booth and having a meeting in Dyersville. And it strikes me that while John can take the lead, he may need some assistance and some other people will raise their hand and help and put together some things. So if the chapter is going to host a booth, that takes some organization and it shouldn't fall on one person. So we might want to be discussing that and maybe sooner and not waiting too long for that to happen.
What about a meeting in mid-March with I'm sorry, who was actually talking about the town ball?
That was me.
Paul.
Okay.
He's
Okay. What about a meeting where Paul does a presentation, John gives us an update on Field of Dreams, and John, we also maybe schedule that meeting so that Lindsay can join us and talk about the website. And that actually would make a pretty decent meeting.
Well, by that time, the website should be up by that time. And we can probably, give some constructive criticism, suggestions, whatever, with Lindsay with us. So that makes a lot of sense. And I'd make sure that he'd be part of that meeting. I mean, that's.
Yeah. Well, we can schedule it.
If he had had more notice, he would have been part of this meeting.
Yeah.
But it was too short notice, so.
Steve, it should be easy to schedule it partly around Lindsay's availability.
Sure, that would be easy.
Well, and I want to just second Craig's suggestion. I don't want to, I mean, all these are good ideas, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that if we're going to be, if our group is going to be running a booth in August, March is definitely not too early to start
absolutely
our planning.
Yeah. Maybe even late February.
Steve, I've got a question for somebody who knows that geography a little better. Is it reasonable, say, if for our meeting and maybe was volunteering at the booth to commute from Marion?
Yeah, I can probably speak to that, having lived in Manchester, which is just short drive west of Dyersville. It's not a bad commute from Marion. The roads are pretty good. We could even, I don't know how, what kind of radius will be all consumed by other, well, by the interlopers coming in from outside Iowa. But Marion Marion would not be a bad commute at all. In fact, you could get from Marion to Dyersville. It's not the straightest route, but you can get there all on a 4-lane pretty much.
Yeah, it's all 4-lane because you take 151. I mean, I've driven that a few different times. From here,
And that, for anybody who's not, I mean, I assume everybody knows this, but I asked about Marion because we have relatives there that we could probably stay with, but but we're talking about the
That'd
Cedar
be great
Rapids
if we
metro
could stay
area.
there, Mike.
What?
That'd be great if we could stay there.
Well, Daryl, I assume you have family in Manchester. I was looking for you.
Daryl, that was
No,
not the
actually,
royal.
I don't.
Daryl, that was not the royal we. Hey, how about all those constituents that you did favors for
Not
over
the
the years in Manchester?
Okay.
Couldn't you tap into them for all of us?
Anger
No,
is strong
I'm thinking the Cedar Rapids might be far enough away that you would be able to get more reasonable motel rates and so forth.
Yeah. Although I would recommend you do it early.
Yeah, got it.
Last year, before they canceled the game last year, Roman told me they expected 70 to 80,000 people in Dyersville. 70 to 80,000.
It only holds what, 8,000, the new park?
Yeah.
Where are they going to put that many people in Dyersville?
It would be like the Hall of Fame induction weekend in Cooperstown, writ large.
You know, this probably comes from having worked for the Department of Public Safety for many years, but the last thing, I can't imagine the stress on their local small volunteer fire department or emergency services. I hope they're doing some backup. So basically, Steve, does that sound like we have an agenda for a mid-March meeting?
Mid-March or even we could look at late February or early March. Craig is right. You know, we got to stay on top of this so that we're not inundated at the last minute. I'm sure John would agree to that.
John, are there deadlines for when, you know, are there details that need to be transmitted to the folks who are over all of this that have deadlines? John?
Turned off.
He looks close up.
Well, right.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Mike, there are no deadlines because no one knows what COVID's going to do.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that doesn't affect us doing the Zoom meeting. And what I'll do is I will get a date with Lindsay shortly, and then I'll talk to Steve Ellsberry, and we'll look for a date, maybe in early to mid-March. And, you know, and we'll just work with his schedule. I don't know what his work week is like teaching 4 courses online, but I imagine it'll be a weekend Zoom meeting like the one today.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it up to Lindsay's schedule so we can make him an important part of the meeting.
Okay.
All you had volunteered to be part of the meeting, so I'll try and keep you in the loop too. Does mid-March, early to mid-March work for you?
Should be able to. I mean, I've got pretty much 32 to 36 kind of written, and I've got the research done through 1940 for the Des Moines semi-pro tournaments. So just depends on how long you want me to go.
Sounds good. Okay. Oh, back to what we were talking about, Marion. How far? I'm, you know, a relative newbie. How far is Marion from Dyersville, time-wise? 30 minutes? 40 minutes?
According to a quick Google search, it's roughly an hour by car.
Oh,
sounds about right.
From Marion to
Marion, yeah, from Marion to Dyersville.
Maybe not
Google
quite that
says
much,
it's about an hour.
but
what about Cedar Rapids?
That one I don't know.
A few minutes
Next door
longer.
to each other.
Yeah, Cedar Rapids, Marion borders on Cedar Rapids. It'd be just
Yeah,
a few minutes
it'd be a little
longer.
bit further.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it would take you quite an hour, but and you know, if Cedar Rapids Marion ends up getting but it'd be a nice drive if you even had to stay as far away as Waterloo. You're looking at probably an hour and 15 minutes, and it's all 4-lane.
Pretty much a straight shot on 115 or 151 or whatever it is.
Well, then Highway 20.
From
Oh,
Waterloo,
20.
from Waterloo to be Highway 20.
Highway 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
What
at
do you
least
think,
one
guys?
friend in Cedar Rapids where I can stay if absolutely necessary at that point. So that's good.
I'm sorry, Doug, what was that?
I was saying, I was just sort of musing that I have at least one friend in Cedar Rapids who I could stay with, so I wouldn't have to worry about like housing or lodging or such. So it's good. It's good to have friends. It's good to be a native Iowan because you have friends all over.
Some of us might be a little less optimistic and say that we know people all over.
That's fair.
Anybody have anything else?
Oh, Steve, could we circle back briefly to that initial question? The question about membership or joining the group, the Facebook group. For anybody who didn't hear, the bottom line that Steve suggested, and I think makes sense, is what restrictions does National SABR put on it, if any? The question comes up. I think we're pretty well agreed not to have any geographic restrictions on belonging to the Field of Dreams Facebook group, because anybody who's interested in Iowa baseball, we welcome them. But the question is whether SABR membership is a requirement or not. And I'm inclined. I'm sorry, couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, I was asking Stu if he had any input on that.
Yeah, I don't know if there'd be any restrictions from SABR, but it never hurts just to, like maybe tell Jacob Pomrenke what you have in mind too, and just ask him for his input, or maybe they have ideas and things for good ways to do stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think the real question is whether there's a SABR rule about membership in SABR Facebook groups.
Not that I know of. I mean, that it would be restricted only to SABR members for being a part of the page or anything. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Does Halsey Hall have a Facebook page?
Yeah, and I think whoever wants to join it, we let in, or at least we haven't monitored it in any way to make sure that people are members before they can join. And we've never even talked about it either, if that should be the case. If we say to somebody, hey, if you're not a member, we don't want you in, why don't you join? I think maybe we're just hoping too that if people are on the page and see things, they, just like we post when we have a new newsletter out, maybe somebody will read the newsletter, get intrigued and want to learn more. I suppose the big danger would be as if anybody got onto the page with any mischief in mind. And I guess which could be for anything. And, I've seen, it's surprising. I've seen very little of that. Somebody comes on and then wants to sell real estate or something like that. And I guess the moderator can boot them off there if that's what they're trying to do.
Thank you.
I'd be inclined simply to say no restrictions except anything required by SABR National. And then with the one provision that the admins be able to boot off anybody who starts selling stuff.
Right.
Or post pornographic material or whatever, For that matter, I also think that it's pretty important that these days, it's pretty important to be real clear that we're going to not necessarily kick somebody out, but delete any political material.
Here.
Might be good if we, once we get that question resolved, it might be good if we actually put something on the group that lays out any requirements.
Yeah. Who else is an admin besides you and me, Mike?
I don't know. I think RJ might still be.
Oh, and Tim perhaps?
I don't know. I mean, no, not RJ, Tim. I'm sure that Tim and RJ work that out.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Do we have any other, who else is an officer besides you and me?
Ralph?
Is Ralph?
Ralph is an officer.
Yeah, sort of like a vice president or something.
So
What am I,
Steve is
base
the umpire
umpire?
in chief. I said Steve was an umpire in chief. What is your title?
I'm a base umpire.
Yeah, base
Whatever
umpire.
that means.
Well, it's the minor leagues. We don't have any major league teams in Iowa, so there's only one base umpire, or sometimes
Right.
two. Sometimes two.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything, anybody? Well, I will let folks know after I've talked to the SABR office and after I've talked to John about Lindsay, when our next meeting is. I'll send out a like I did for this meeting. I'll send out a group email and we'll look for it in early to mid-March. So thank you for making my first hosting job relatively easy.
Hey, everybody, remember
Thanks,
pitchers and catchers report in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sure they will.
Maybe that's
Maybe.
Well, they'll probably report. The question is whether they'll get through spring training or not.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Everybody take care.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
Have a great day.
See you all. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.